What are you looking for in a new smart TV? 4K picture quality, high quality and immersive sound, a sleek design? All of those are givens, but only the new Roku Pro series has all of those and the Roku streaming experience, an award-winning OS. Get fast, easy access to all your apps like iHeart, where you can stream all your favorite music, radio, and podcasts all day, and regular all-inclusive trips to Roku City. The new Roku Pro series, a smart TV built by the streaming pros.
At Crunch Fitness, we know the difference between feeling bad and feeling good. But dialing your ex feels bad.
Sam? Hey, Sam?
But dialing in your fitness routine feels good. Hearing they want to get back together feels bad.
Sam, are we back?
Working your back at Crunch feels good. Having to change your number feels bad.
The number you have dialed is over you.
Lifting a huge number of pounds feels good.
Nice!
So feel good, not bad. Join from $9.99 at Crunch.com or your local Crunch gym.
Hardy Fiber Cement Siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy Siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. It's Later with Mo Kelly and Jackie Ray as we go beyond the box score. Today has been Inauguration Day, and our new president, the 47th president, is also the old and 45th president, Donald J. Trump. Of course, you knew that, but you may not know that there is a connection to sports, which happened today. Now, of the many executive actions that Donald Trump promised to sign and did sign was one order which declared that the federal government would recognize only two immutable sexes, male and female. The definition will be based on whether people are born with eggs or sperm, not my terminology, but rather than on their chromosomes. The change is being pitched as a way to protect women from quote unquote gender extremism, close quote. And Donald Trump in other remarks has said that he will prevent transgender athletes from participating in women's sports. Here we go, Jackie Ray. Mm-hmm. Intellectually, I can say that on some levels, I do agree with the president as far as the separation of the genders. I don't agree with the terminology, and I don't agree with the phrasing, because I think a distinction still needs to be made between sex and gender. And in this order, it's being conflated. Where do you come out on this?
I'm exactly in the same space. I agree with the movement. We've talked about this on this show several times, so I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. However, some of the terminology that he used was definitely transphobic in nature. And I think that's the disconnect. I think you can say, and I think we have successfully said that, hey, we understand that you want to move in a certain way. You identify as a certain way. You want to live your life in a certain way. And we encourage you to do that. We applaud your right to do that. However, when it comes to sports, there's reasons why we have different weight classes for certain sports, different ages. So the separation, I think, is definitely warranted. And I think there's separation between biological men and biological women should continue to stand. However, when you use this terminology, I don't feel like there's any leeway. One of the things that I've said time and time again is, yes, when we first started women's basketball or women's sports in general, the notion was most women aren't going to want to play because most women are going to want to do womanly things. And what we've seen is that's not the case, and women's sports continue to rise. So a lot of times when I talk about, okay, let's figure out a way to build a transgender league, I should not be leading that conversation. You should not be leading that conversation, and nor should Trump. But people in the transgender community should be leading that conversation. What does that look like? What do you need? And I think some of the speech that he used doesn't really give way to that kind of conversation. It's like, we have two genders, that's it, and that's all. Let's not talk about anything else. And I think that that's the problem. I think what we might see if we really dug deep and had these conversations is just like people now say, oh, well, there won't be an audience for that. You said the same thing about women's sports, and here we are. And that's not the case. The first step, in my opinion, is a conversation. But again, I don't feel like his words really cultivate that kind of conversation.
Let me pick it up right there. My concern, and to use your terminology, I do agree with, there was a transphobic element to it. Mm-hmm. It's one thing if the president said, I'm declaring that there are two genders, but I want to be empathetic to those who may find themselves somewhere along this gender spectrum that some people want to embrace. This is something that's different. I'm talking about federal funds. I'm talking about how we organize our sports. There should have been a degree of nuance, which is not there. And because of what I perceive as transphobic rhetoric, you put trans people, let's not forget, we're talking about people in danger. That is my read. Where would you come out on that?
I think a lot of the rhetoric that we hear right now is, if you're not exactly like me, then that gives me cause to berate you, treat you differently. And that is regressing to an America that I just don't think we want to be in. I 100% understand that there are people that are going to live a way in which you don't agree with. My mom is a devout Christian. If you are not a devout Christian, she'll be nice to you, but she's going to keep you at arm's length. And I think that's fine. But I think the problem that comes about is when you start using the fact that people don't look or think or act like you as a way to all of a sudden say they don't have the same rights to live a life that they see as healthy and find happiness in the way that's best for them. And that's the thing about sports. Sports really is, for a lot of us who have played competitive sports, we know that it is a source of great happiness. And so I don't think that we should move in a way that prevents people from engaging in sports. Let's just find a way to do it where the sports can remain fair and equal.
There's another component to this. There is the signing of an executive action, and there is the implementation of the executive action. How that's going to play out, I don't think anyone knows, not you, not me, not even the federal government. Like, for example, also under this order, federal prisons and shelters for migrants and rape victims would be segregated by sex as defined by the order. I don't know how all this is going to play out, pan out, or be regulated or legislated. The executive action says this is what is going to be the law of the land to a certain extent. But taking it back to sports, how do schools necessarily implement it? How do they make sure that the executive action is being followed while also trans students are adequately protected under the law? Those are my concerns, where you have the executive action and it may be quote unquote black and white for sports or for prisons or shelters for migrants and rape victims. How they plan to go about this at Rinky Dink Middle School in Dubuque, Iowa, or somewhere in South Carolina or California for that matter, I'm not so sure there's going to be that uniformity.
Well, and I'm going to say this, it's going to come down to the youth. Maybe not, obviously not the elementary school kids, but every movement in this country has pretty much started with young people saying, no, this isn't going to be okay. So somewhere out there's a young person that's listening to this. I would just empower you to really sit down and think, what would you want this to look like? What would make this fair for you? I personally don't think that biological men playing sports with biological women is fair. I don't think that's fair. So how can people who think like me and people in the transgender community sit at a table and figure out what is fair going forward? It's going to be a tough conversation, one that I clearly don't have an answer for, but it starts with a conversation. And
I don't think you should have to have that answer because, like we said, we should not be leading the conversation, much less providing the solutions, but we can at least provide some context around those solutions. Jackie Ray, when we come back, we're going to delve into tennis and talk about Novak Djokovic. One of the greatest tennis players ever, one of the greatest champions ever. He is now back in the news because he refused to give Jim Courier an interview after a match because he felt disrespected by a very prominent Australian broadcaster and demanded an apology. We're going to play all the audio when we come back, and then we're going to turn it over to Jackie Ray to tell us from an athletics standpoint and also a journalist standpoint who is wrong.
Roku has what you need to make your college home away from home feel more like your own. Make your dorm the place to be with Roku TV, or bring a Roku streaming stick to easily access all your favorite free and premium content like iHeartRadio. Stream your favorite playlist with the Roku Vibe Setting Smart Light strips to sync your music to millions of colors and make your dorm feel more like you. Make your dorm the place to be with Roku TV, streaming players, and smart lights. Head to Roku.com or your favorite retailer to deck out your dorm.
Crunch Fitness here to remind you that feeling good is better than bad. For example, getting a call from your boss at night feels bad. Tackling miles of cardio like a boss feels good.
All right.
Burning your mouth on a reheated burrito feels bad.
Ow! Hot!
Burning calories at Crunch feels good. Getting dumped feels bad. Dumping your old gym feels good.
Bye-bye.
So remember, feel good, not bad. Join from $9.99 at Crunch.com or your local Crunch gym.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI, Mo Kelly, Jackie Ray. We're going beyond the box score still. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. An Australian broadcaster, Tony Jones, he found himself in a lot of hot water over the weekend and has since apologized to Novak Djokovic and Serbian tennis fans after he, according to some, crossed the line in heckling fans during a news segment. From that, Djokovic got wind of it, maybe heard the remarks, and then denied interviews to the Associated Outlet, would not talk to renowned tennis star in his own right, Jim Courier, and then the broadcaster made the apology. I'm going to play all the audio in order, Jackie Ray.
Okay.
So everyone can hear, and then we'll get your thoughts on who's right, who's wrong, who's sensitive, and who's an ass. Here we go. Here, starting off first with Tony Jones, what he had to say, and this is during his broadcast.
The Novak Djokovic fans there in full voice. Yeah, the chants are quite extraordinary. Novak, he's overrated. Novak's a has-been. Novak, kick him out. Boy, I'm glad they can't hear me.
But clearly, they could hear him. That's Tony Jones. So here is what Novak did when he encountered Jim Courier.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate your presence and the support, and I'll see you next round. Thank you very much.
Well, that's interesting. He was riled by some here, but he didn't want to be interviewed by Jim Courier because he, I think, maybe was wary that he might say something that might have repercussions later on. Hasn't endeared himself anymore to the crowd.
Then in the subsequent press conference, right after that, he was asked, was there something behind him snubbing Jim Courier?
Yes, good evening. So I would like to just clarify the reason why the interview was not conducted on the court, the post-match interview, like it's a common, usual practice. A couple of days ago, the famous sports journalist who works for official broadcaster Channel 9 here in Australia made a mockery of Serbian fans and also made insulting and offensive comments towards me. And since then, he chose not to issue any public apology. Neither did Channel 9. So since they're official broadcasters, I chose not to give interviews for Channel 9. I have nothing against Jim Courier, neither the Australian public, and it was a very awkward situation for me to face on the court today, and it's unfortunate. I chose to say something to the crowd, but obviously it wasn't the time and space or situation for me to explain what I'm doing right now. So I leave it to Channel 9 to handle this the way they think they see fit.
Well, Channel 9 said, Tony Jones, your ass is going to have to apologize.
Right.
And here is the apology, and here we go.
The comments were made, if I can just give you a bit of a timeline here, the comments were made on the news on the Friday night, which I considered to be banter. I considered it to be humour, which is consistent with most things I do, you know, whether it be the Sunday footy show, whether it be the morning show here. Having said that, I was made aware on the Saturday morning from Tennis Australia via the Djokovic camp that the Djokovic camp was not happy at all with those comments. Now, as such, I immediately contacted the Djokovic camp and issued an apology to them, so this is 48 hours ago, for any disrespect that Novak felt that I'd caused. And as I stand here now, I stand by that apology to Novak if he felt any disrespect, which quite clearly he does.
Okay, you've heard all the audio. What say you, Jackie Ray?
I think they both handled it correctly. I know that sounds very, Switzerland of me to be neutral in this one, but I definitely think I 100 respect Novak going out there and giving his props to the fans and then just calling it, saying, thank you, God bless y'all, good night, and then leaving. Because I think in that moment, he probably realized in order to conduct that interview, he would have to say, hey, say what you said to my face. And then that's going to be another contentious situation. I think he handled that brilliantly. And at the end of the day, I also think the journalist handled it okay, because this is part of what it is to be a sports journalist. It's fun. Some of the things that I know Skip Bayless says about LeBron James, I don't think he actually believes, because how could he? But I think that's what makes for good TV. That's why we watch, because we know there's certain sports journalists that don't like certain players. It creates this great banter between them and their colleagues. And nobody wants to watch a bunch of agreeable people agreeing on everything. That's not good television. I'm not familiar with this journalist, but this is par for the course for most sports journalists to have a level of sarcasm and a level of antagonistic behavior with fans, just because, again, that makes for good television. However, if that is part of your shtick, if you will, then you do have to apologize if all of a sudden now you can't get an interview with an athlete. I've been on the other side of that. I have said things that I 100% stand by, and an athlete hasn't wanted to talk to me. And so then you have to decide as a journalist, is this a hill that you want to die on, or do you want to say an apology so you can continue to do your job and do your job well? I died on the hill and then just let it die out. But in this situation, I don't think that that would have been beneficial, because you're the main partner. You are the journalist that works for the main television partner for this tournament. So you have to issue that apology. So I actually think both of them were correct in how they handled it.
Okay, so no thoughts about the idea that he insulted the Serbian fans. There was an ethnic component to this, at least according to Novak.
So, okay, the ethnic part of it I didn't get, but also I'm not a part of that ethnic group. So maybe I'm just a little bit ignorant on that, because to me, it felt like, as a diehard LeBron fan, I can't tell you how many times that I hear people say, you know, LeBron sexuals is what they call us. They just overthink. They think he's the greatest, and they do poke fun at us for being the fans of him. So I took it as making fun of a diehard fan base. If it is sort of a racial component, then that is entirely different, and I missed it. And yes, that apology has to be issued. I didn't take it like that, but I took it as poking fun at a specific fan base.
We'll leave it at that. Jackie Ray, always good to have you. We had some real pithy material tonight to dive into. Can't wait to have you on, and I'll see you again next week.
See you next week.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI, Mr. Mo Kelly, we're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Here's how to set intentions for this year, 2025, based on your zodiac sign. Aries, healing is the order of the year for Aries. While the lunar nodes are transitioning out of the Aries/Libra axis in early 2025, Chiron, our point of deep pain and potential, will remain in these cardinal fires for the rest of the year. This means our Aries friends are in their healing era. Intentions for Aries might include words like healing, wholeness, level up, restorative, nourished, and recovery. Taurus. Y'all Taurus folk need to honor the earth element of their sign by spending mindful time in nature each and every day. As a rabble-rousing, chaos-courting Uranus moves through...
Excuse me?
The people of the bull are primed to experience some serious shakeups. Allow your natural stability to ground yourself in the rhythm of patience to create a foundation for 2025. Gemini. A growth mindset is the name of the game for you Geminis. Mark Ronner. During the first half of the year, Jupiter, the zodiac's drunk, generous uncle, will continue to move through the sign of Gemini. This could mean some big expansion for the Gemini. Their intentions for 2025 might be growth mindset, evolutionary thinking, and development. Your innate ability to connect ideas on an astronomical scale is where to put your energy this coming year. To support an open mind and invite big ideas. Maybe explore a new topic every week. Cancer, that would be Stefan. Say yes to saying no this year, Stefan. On June 9th, luck-dealing, blessing-bestowing planet Jupiter will enter Cancer, giving the people of the crab a crash course in exponential growth. To get right with authentic alignment, saying no once a day to anything or anyone that drains rather than restores your precious life force.
Right.
Make sense?
I can dig that.
Right.
Yeah.
Be willing to say no.
Yeah.
Leo, Keeping a gratitude journal is a great way to avoid keeping a senseless score. The year begins with the warrior planet Mars retrograding in the sign of Leo. To best support yourself and protect your peace in these trying times, maintain a daily gratitude ritual. By recognizing all you have, your focus will naturally shift from hunger to satiety. Virgo should create a bingo card to highlight throughout the year as they accomplish their objectives. In June, valorous, action-oriented Mars will set up shop in Virgo, offering natives the chance to fight for what's right. As highlighting numbers and crossing off tasks is an erotic thrill for Virgos, really? It is suggested that creating a bingo card to highlight throughout the year as you accomplish your objectives. Libra, a mirror mantra is medicine for Libras. Save for Mars entering their sign in August, Libra folk will have a relatively breezy year. Sound is medicine to this Venus-ruled sign, and the people of the scales create a weekly or monthly mantra that will support their infinite potential. Now, next one is for Tuala, the Scorpio. Rewrite and rewire, Scorpio. Like Libra, y'all Scorpio folk will be blessed with relative cosmic calm this year. Y'all deserve it. Scorpions should journal their limiting or self-sabotaging beliefs, then rewrite them for the plot twist they're seeking in their life to come to fruition. We'll find out. Sagittarius, that's me. I'm told to stay the course, but keep my eyes on the horizon. For the ever-seeking Sagittarius, this year offers more chances to broaden the mind and deepen our pursuits. Oh, that's it? That's it? Just keep our eye on the goal? That's whack. I need a little more than that.
It's like, keep your chin up.
It's like, give me 13 words to guide me for the year. So I need more than that.
Jeez.
Capricorn, spend 11 sacred minutes every day calling in your better angels and higher self. At the end of 2025, Mars and Venus will be in the aspirational dirt of Capricorn, highlighting themes of masculine and feminine embodiment and interaction. To ground and respond from a place of equity, it is urged sea-goats to set aside 11 minutes each day to call in and align with their better angels and highest selves. Aquarius, find a community that matches your freak. Oh, wow. Aquarians are in for a big year as Death Daddy Pluto has recently begun its 2-decade journey through their sign. Gosh, this is kind of vague. What does that mean? How do you find a community which matches your freak? I mean, do you like go online and look for someone who likes BDSM?
It sounds expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. Pisces, the people of the fish need to spend time each morning visualizing themselves in a protective orb as a barrier against absorbing the energies around them. Hard Knocks planet Saturn will complete its journey through Pisces in May and then return to retrograde through the sign with a ruler in hand come September. As a daily strategy for clarity, it's recommended that the people of the fish spend time each morning visualizing themselves in a protective orb. And there you have your, I guess, it's limited information. I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty vague. How to set intentions for 2025 based on your zodiac sign. What are you supposed to do, Stefan? Do you remember?
Learn to say yes to no, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mark, do you remember what your recommendations were?
It sounded like I was going to put on some weight this year or something like that. It was awfully vague.
Growth mindset.
Yeah,
put on words.
I'm going to go on some kind of hamburger binge after that earlier segment that you did.
Well, at least you know what are the healthier options.
I love that he got the alcohol one. Oh, I did? Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Something like, I forgot what it said, but something to do with...
It says support an open mind and invite big ideas. Explore one new topic each week. A growth mindset is the name of the game for Geminis. During the first half of the year, Jupiter, the zodiac's drunk, generous uncle.
Oh, yeah, okay. There we go.
Will continue to move through the sign of Gemini.
The old drunken Uncle Jupiter. Well, okay. Sounds great. It's not like horoscopes are ever so vague that they could apply to anyone or anything. I mean, These are all things we can use, right? Concrete things.
Yes, we can use them somehow, some way.
Except most
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell they were trying to tell me.
Keep your head up, and that's it.
I'm just going to have to concentrate and meditate and pray on this one. I don't know what it was trying to tell me. Stay the course, but keep your eyes on the horizon. Okay, got it.
Done.
It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI M640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have supervision, enhanced hearing, extraordinary reflexes, to be, dare we say, superhuman? Well, Roku's new Pro Series TV can't do any of that for you. But with a 4K screen, side-firing speakers, and a blazing fast refresh rate, it'll sure feel like it. Elevate your entertainment using all your favorite apps like iHeart and play all your music, radio, and podcasts with the new Roku Pro Series. Your senses aren't better. Your TV is.
At Crunch Fitness, we know the difference between feeling bad and feeling good. But dialing your ex feels bad.
Sam? Hey, Sam?
But dialing in your fitness routine feels good. Hearing they want to get back together feels bad.
Sam, are we back?
Working your back at Crunch feels good. Having to change your number feels bad.
The number you have dialed is over you.
Lifting a huge number of pounds feels good.
Nice!
So feel good, not bad. Join from $9.99 at Crunch.com or your local Crunch gym.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
When I started the show tonight, I was detailing my trip to Chicago. I went to Chicago for a martial arts seminar. I was participating and also teaching some things. And I talked about my trip via Southwest Airlines, and it was touch and go as far as I was concerned. Now, I would be considered a nervous flyer. We had a flight attendant, just to reset the story, a flight attendant who said we expected bad turbulence, and I quote, both on takeoff and landing. And she was not wrong. And it was probably my worst flight. No. The worst flight I ever had, I landed at Burbank, and the pilot almost lost control and almost crashed through a gate on the Hollywood Way. Not exaggerating. If you've ever landed at Burbank Airport, it's a short runway. You got one chance at it. You can't miss it. But I'll say this was in the top 5. Really bad turbulence, high wind shear factor. I think the winds were really going into Chicago, and the plane was flying just maybe 1,000, 2,000 feet above Lake Michigan, which was a weird approach from what I understand going into Midway Airport in Chicago. And I was asking for pilots, does this sound like anything? Am I getting this wrong? Bad turbulence. Pilot slammed into the runway. The approach was really fast. It seemed like you want to get down that plane as fast as possible because of the wind. We were yawing back and forth, tipping up, and it was bad. It was bad. And I was asking, if you're a pilot out there, and Mitch Cohen, who goes on under the name of Captain Mitch on Instagram, said, but did you die? No, I didn't die. That didn't mean that the flight was good. So, he did say, didn't get to hear all the comments. Hopefully, Captain Mitch is listening right now. Engines running up have more to do with air traffic control assigning faster speeds to expedite traffic. Okay. Yeah, I admit, I honestly don't know, Captain Mitch, but thank you for offering that. And as I got to Chicago, I was talking about how people in Chicago were all asking about the fires in California because they wanted to know what was going on. And and I gave them my perspective. Something else I enjoyed, I should say, when I was in Chicago. If you go to my Instagram, at Mr. Mo Kelly, I posted a photo of me enjoying White Castle. If you have ever been to Chicago or the Midwest, and I know Mark Runner knows about this, having lived in Midwest, White Castle is a thing. And I'm not talking about the White Castle found in the grocery store frozen food section. White Castle, especially back in the day in the 1980s, they had these little shacks where they would sell these sliders, and they were great. They were greasy. They were unhealthy for you. They're probably 59th or 69th on the top healthiest hamburgers ever, but they're delicious. And when I would go to Detroit each year, because my mom's family lived in Detroit, we would always get White Castle, and they had a similar burger stand called Top Hat. But White Castle was legendary. And whenever I go to the Midwest, I try to make it a point Yes, I'll get the Chicago deep dish pizza. Yeah. But I want to get White Castle. And people are saying, you can eat that? What's so special about White Castle? Like, look, you probably have only had the stuff in the frozen food aisle. And if you've only had the stuff in the frozen food aisle, you cannot appreciate White Castle. White Castle is probably the best horrible food ever.
Can you please go into some detail on this? Because, first of all, I don't hate myself enough to buy the frozen White Castle, but I've had plenty of it in real life at the real places in the Midwest. And I think you can barely call it food. It's terrible. I don't understand how you can describe it as delicious. It's
so delicious.
So allegedly they're steamed. That's how they're cooked. And they're smaller than your average burger. They're
sliders, basically.
Yeah, they're little sliders. They just taste disgusting to me. And I have such a vivid sense memory. See, here's what especially confuses me about you, because you are neither Harold nor Kumar. You are alleged not to be a big weed smoker, and that's the entirety of White Castle's customer base.
No, I disagree with that. Go ahead,
For the most
Stefan.
part, but yeah, I wouldn't say that. Because
That is the kind of fast food, junk food, though, that you got to be a little loaded to enjoy to its fullest potential.
When I went to a wedding in Michigan, that's the first thing me and my ex did. Got off the plane and went right there.
Thank you.
Get her the help she needs. Get her help.
I don't understand, for a person who seems to enjoy food like I do, Mark, how you could not also love White Castle hamburger. They even have breakfast White Castle now.
God.
Like with French toast as the bread, and they have egg and sausage in the middle.
That
it
sounds
is
like
glorious.
a crime against humanity.
Oh,
Now, I'll tell you one
some
thing.
crimes are good.
I have seen a recipe for White Castle stuffing, which is basically they chop up some White Castle burgers and use them as stuffing. And that had kind of a trashy appeal to it that I could almost understand.
I wonder where Twala went. He's running around somewhere, because in Pennsylvania, I'm quite sure they have White Castle out there, and he could be the tiebreaker.
I'm sure they do, yeah.
Yeah. White Castle is one of those things where you don't eat it because it's healthy. It's almost like we were talking about how you get those hot dogs when you come out of the nightclub and they're being cooked on the street. Should you eat it? No. Do they taste good? Yes. Hell yes.
It's like after the cigarettes and the drinks, all you smell is the bacon wrapped hot dogs and the onions. Just
Look, I'm not approaching this from any position of moral superiority. I had a big ass Costco hot dog yesterday and was scolded for it when I got home. That's the full experience, by the way. You've got to have the guilt that goes with it. The guilt must be inflicted on you,
no.
just like it's one of the toppings.
I've only had it once in like 30 years. There is no guilt. It'd be different if I had some White Castle every single Friday. No, I don't. I've not had real White Castle in decades. I've had a few of the frozen ones, and I vowed I'm not ever going to eat these frozen ones again. They're horrible. You can't cook them in the microwave. You can't put them in the air fryer. It does not duplicate the authentic taste of White Castle. They are glorious. They are delicious. And anyone who disagrees is an idiot. They just don't know food.
Yeah, okay. The authentic taste of them is slimy and gross. I don't know how many you've had over your entire lifetime, but I think I've had a representative sample. And if you put them alongside any fast food burgers, even McDonald's burgers, which I'm not a huge fan of, I just think they're in a category of their own. They should be pet food.
Do you have a go-to burger?
I do like In-N-Out.
That's solid.
But it's a different class of burger. I'm not going to White Castle to get something which is going to compete with an In-N-Out burger. They don't even have enough ingredients on it. It's like meat and onions.
Literally.
That's about it.
It's like 3 ingredients.
Yes.
Okay, but don't you find the White Castle bread kind of slimy and kind of wet and disgusting?
Only if you buy them in the frozen food section, you try to microwave them. If you get them from actual White Castle, no, it's not soggy bread or anything. It's just delicious. It's heaven on earth.
That's why meat doesn't even taste like it's meat. I don't know what happened. I think you've got that COVID thing where after you get a case of COVID, it affects all your senses. Like the long-suffering one started to think orange juice smelled like fish. You've got some version of that going on right now.
Before COVID even existed, I loved White Castle. So I'm going off that memory. It met the moment, and it matched my memory.
Okay, you and I have...
Everyone, before you die, you need to have a real White
Don't
Castle
listen
burger.
to him. Do not.
Okay, Tuala Sharp, you're now in the studio. You lived in Pennsylvania, so I know there had to have been a White Castle out there.
Absolutely.
All right.
White Castle's delicious, Mark.
Don't defend it.
I do not do drugs, nor do I imbibe any alcohol, but White Castle is very filling late at night from that greasy little stand. Yes, delicious.
You have both sustained serious head injuries at some point.
We're not wrong, though.
And it's affected your other senses.
I have sustained head injury. That's
Me
not
too.
incorrect. But it did not make me wake up and say, oh, I need a White Castle. I just happened to have one because I wanted to know what all the hype was, not because of Harold and Kumar, actually going back to the
we
80s,
predate.
because Run DMC, they used to talk about it all the time. In interviews on records and stuff like that. Beastie Boys used to talk about it.
Sure did.
And I used to think to myself, like, what is this White Castle that New York rappers keep talking about? I had to try one, and it was delicious.
It was so weird when the movie Harold and Kumar go to White Castle and people discover White Castle after that. You gotta be freaking kidding. I've been eating White Castle since the early 1970s.
That's not something you should brag about.
Oh, yes, I should.
That's not going to be the first line on your resume.
Before you die, you need to have 10 more White Castle sliders. Before you and the long-suffering one get married, you need to have 20 White Castle sliders.
Yeah, well,
before you go to hell, you need to have 30 White Castle sliders. Can I get an amen? Somebody knows what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you right now that eating that many White Castle sliders will accelerate
Black
you heading
children
to your
and
great
white
reward.
children should come together, free at last, free at last. White Castle's so damn good, almighty, free at last.
How dare all of you. How dare you? You think the three of you can gang up on me about this? I will not be ganged up on. White Castle is trash.
But it's tasty trash.
Look at
Blasphemy.
it.
So
Look at the
much
time.
good stuff. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeart White Castle
No.
app.
More informing, more engaging, more stimulating. KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have supervision, enhanced hearing, extraordinary reflexes, to be, dare we say, superhuman? Well, Roku's new Pro Series TV can't do any of that for you. But with a 4K screen, side-firing speakers, and a blazing fast refresh rate, it'll sure feel like it. Elevate your entertainment using all your favorite apps like iHeart and play all your music, radio, and podcasts with the new Roku Pro Series. Your senses aren't better. Your TV is.
Crunch Fitness here to remind you that feeling good is better than bad. For example, getting a call from your boss at night feels bad. Tackling miles of cardio like a boss feels good. Burning your mouth on a reheated burrito feels bad.
Ow!
Burning calories at Crunch feels good. Getting dumped feels bad. Dumping your old gym feels good.
Bye-bye.
So remember, feel good, not bad. Join from $9.99 at crunch.com or your local Crunch gym.